Cottage cheese ice cream is trending on TikTok right now, but is this viral take on the classic frozen dessert actually more nutritious? Tune in as I reveal everything you need to know about cottage cheese ice cream and your health. Hey everybody, Erin here with Healthy Mom, Happy Family. And as a registered dietitian and a certified diabetes educator, I have been getting asked a lot of questions about cottage cheese ice cream and if it is actually more nutritious than the traditional frozen treat. So I wanted to share with you everything you need to know before you try it. Now, before we dive in, I just want to remind you that if you are looking for ways to naturally improve your blood sugar levels and you want tips and tricks for living with insulin resistance or type 2 diabetes, then make sure to hit subscribe and that notification bell so that you never miss a new video. And if you're looking to learn more about everything you were never told about managing blood sugar and reversing insulin resistance, then I would love to invite you to check out my signature program, The Blood Sugar Fix, where I walk you through exactly what you need to do to lower blood sugar, increase energy, and achieve your healthiest self in just 6 weeks. It is the easiest way possible to make this all happen, and all the details on how to join me are right here. Okay, so let's dive in. Now, as a registered dietitian, I am going to break down everything you need to know about the cottage cheese ice cream trend and if it is truly a better for you version of the classic ice cream treat. And most importantly, this is the big question, is the taste of cottage cheese ice cream truly worth it for you to improve your health? So let's take a look. So first, let's talk about what cottage cheese ice cream really is. Now, if you have been on TikTok, you have probably seen this viral trend about making cottage cheese ice cream. But what exactly is this frozen treat? Well, basically, cottage cheese ice cream replaces the heavy cream in traditional ice cream. And so you're using cottage cheese in replacement of cream. Now, it's still making a frozen dessert, so you're still adding things like milk and sugar or another sweetener, and sometimes other ingredients too. Some of the recipes call for added fruits or nuts or even chocolate chips. Now, because the cottage cheese replaces heavy cream, the dessert is usually lower in calories, fat, and sometimes sugar, but this is really going to depend on the ingredients used and how the recipe is sweetened. So why is cottage cheese ice cream so popular? And when did this frozen dessert actually become a viral sensation? Now, it's been around for a while, but according to fans on TikTok, it's because this dessert, it looks like ice cream and it tastes like traditional ice cream, but it might be more nutritious. And so then you can eat it more often, which we all love. Now, this dessert is very, very easy to make. You can make it at home. You just need a high-powered blender or a food processor. And what I love about it is you really can customize it to meet a lot of your different flavor preferences and options. So whether you're a mint chocolate chip fan or you like traditional vanilla, you can make an option that works for you. Now let's talk about the health benefits, because the health benefits of this dessert can be appealing. Many times it has fewer calories, fewer carbs, and less added sugar, and it also has higher protein. So that does make it a more blood sugar-friendly dessert option, and that's why it's becoming so popular among people with diabetes as well as those with insulin resistance. So let's look at the health benefits of cottage cheese. Now, cottage cheese is a dairy product, and it's made from curdled milk. And one serving of cottage cheese provides a good source of protein as well as calcium and phosphorus. Now, when you compare cottage cheese to yogurt and cow's milk, cottage cheese is generally lower in overall carbohydrate and has more protein. So that usually means it will have less impact on your blood sugar than a glass of milk would. So let's take a look at some of the main health benefits of cottage cheese. First, it's high in protein. So cottage cheese is a good source of protein, which we know is essential for building and repairing muscle mass and tissues, and it also helps to keep you feeling full longer. Now, cottage cheese is also lower in calories and fat. So what's great about this is it can be a more nutritious choice, especially when you're trying to add more protein to your diet without upping your intake of saturated fat or an excessive amount of calories. And cottage cheese is also a good source of calcium, which we know is essential for strong bones and teeth. Another benefit of cottage cheese is that it is high in phosphorus. Now, phosphorus is a mineral that is essential for energy production, cell growth, and bone health. And it's not just these nutrients. Cottage cheese also contains other beneficial nutrients such as vitamin A, vitamin B12, and selenium. Now, to me, the biggest benefit of cottage cheese, which is very evident by this new viral trend, is its versatility. You can enjoy cottage cheese plain, but it can be used in recipes. For instance, I have used cottage cheese in everything from smoothies to chia pudding to muffins. And now you can see that you can use it in ice cream too. So it's an incredibly versatile way to add more calcium and more protein to the diet. Okay, so now let's talk about the pros and cons of cottage cheese ice cream. Because if you are considering jumping on this trend, there are a few things I want you to consider. So let's look at the pros first. So first, cottage cheese ice cream is lower in calories and fat than traditional ice cream. Now, depending on how you sweeten the recipe, it can also be lower in added sugar, but not always. So you really have to look at the recipe and what sweeteners are being added. Now, this ice cream alternative can be a really great way to enjoy a frozen treat with more protein and calcium and other nutrients. And it's also a really, really versatile dessert. I love it because you can incorporate so many different flavors. So there are many varieties of cottage cheese ice cream you can make. And it really does not require any special equipment. You can make it at home with a blender or a food processor. All right, so let's talk about the cons too. Now first, cottage cheese ice cream might not taste exactly like traditional ice cream. It's still good, but it might be just slightly different in taste. And it's not necessarily quite as smooth and creamy as traditional ice cream. And depending on your flavor preferences and what ingredients you're using, it may or may not totally satisfy that ice cream craving. Overall, cottage cheese ice cream is a healthier alternative to traditional ice cream, but it also is very important to note that it is still a dessert, and depending on how much added sweetener you're adding and what other ingredients you're adding, like chocolate chips, you still want to eat it in moderation. So consider the recipe, consider the ingredients being added, and that's going to help you determine how much and how often you can enjoy this treat. So let's talk about how cottage cheese ice cream is sweetened, because it can be sweetened with a variety of sweeteners, and the choice of sweetener you make is going to have a direct impact on the calories and the carbohydrate content of the recipe, as well as the impact on your blood sugar levels. Now you can choose to sweeten this dessert with a non-caloric sweetener, so you could use things like erythritol, stevia, sucralose, or you might sweeten it with traditional versions like sugar, honey, maple syrup. Those things are going to contribute to more calories and more carbohydrate and more impact on blood sugar. There's also options that are calorie-free and more natural, like monk fruit extract. You can also choose something like allulose. So the type of sweetener you choose is really going to be dependent on your personal preference, what you have access to, and your dietary needs. So the choice is up to you, but just remember, depending on the sweetener you choose, it may or may not increase the carbohydrate content and the impact on blood sugar levels. All right, so now let's talk about the big question. Is cottage cheese ice cream really healthy? So this frozen dessert definitely has a leg up on traditional ice cream, but the health benefits are gonna vary greatly depending on the ingredients that you are using. Now, there are a lot of recipes out there for cottage cheese ice cream that incorporate frozen fruit and even frozen vegetables. And these are a great way to add more fiber and more antioxidant to the recipe. You're getting that sweetness without adding additional sugar. So these are absolutely going to be more nutritious than your traditional ice cream. However, if you're choosing a version that adds a lot of added sugar and syrups and chocolate, then it might not actually be much better. It's going to be lower in fat, but it might be just as many carbohydrates, if not more. So what you want to look at is what you're adding into the recipe. And the biggest thing you have to look at is the sweetener choice. That is going to have the biggest impact on blood sugar from the cottage cheese ice cream. If you want to really up the nutrition game and make it more beneficial, consider blending frozen fruit, frozen vegetables, and using a low to no calorie sweetener. And that is going to give you the most delicious recipe that has the least impact on blood sugar levels. Now, if you want to make cottage cheese ice cream at home, this is a really simple template recipe you can use. Take 1 cup of low-fat cottage cheese, a half a cup of low-fat milk, and then a 1/4 cup of a no-calorie sweetener of your choice. Erythritol, allulose, monk fruit extract, it's up to you. And then 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract and a half a cup of frozen fruit. You put those ingredients into a blender or food processor, combine it until it is smooth, and then put it into a freezer-safe, I like to use a loaf pan. That works really well. You know, any kind of freezer safe dish, but a loaf pan is nice and even. Put it into the freezer for about 2 hours until it hardens. And then you can take it out and use an ice cream scoop to enjoy it. So it's really, really simple. You don't need an ice cream maker. You can do it in minutes at home, and it can make for a really delicious treat you can enjoy all summer long or, all year long, depending on what you like. Now, if you really are picky with your cottage cheese ice cream and you want a really creamy texture, try full fat cottage cheese. That's a really great way to up the creaminess. Or you could even add mashed avocado into the recipe too to blend it up, and that gives a nice creamy, thick flavor. If you use more low-fat cottage cheese to take out the fat, it's going to have a bit of a lighter texture. And sometimes, depending on the sweetener choice, it can be a little bit more crystallized and not quite as smooth. So those are a few tips and tricks. The full-fat creaminess will give more of that texture, or even adding the avocado, and then watching with the sweetener, depending how creamy it's going to get. But you have a lot of ways to up that creaminess too by adding more fruits and vegetables and just using a good blender. I'll link to my favorite blender below, but when you use a really good quality blender and blend it really well, it gets that very even, smooth consistency. And then once you freeze it, it really does taste pretty much just like ice cream. So the bottom line on cottage cheese ice cream is that it definitely can be more nutritious, but you do have to look at what ingredients and sweeteners you are adding to the recipe. And remember, the most important thing is that it's still a dessert, so enjoy it in moderation, but enjoyment is key. So if you don't love cottage cheese ice cream, just have regular ice cream, but have it in a small portion and have it less frequently. And if you found today's video helpful, I would love if you can give me a like and let me know in the comments what you found most helpful. And don't forget, if you are serious about managing your blood sugar levels and reversing insulin resistance, then join me in my 6-week blood sugar fix program, where I show you in the easiest way possible how to lower blood sugar, increase energy, and achieve your healthiest self in just 6 weeks. The information's below, and I would love to have you join me. Thanks for being here.